Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be reviewing the Kizer Drop Bear Fixed Blade. We have two different variants. We have the drop point version and we also have the sheep's foot. They also have a clip point version, but that one didn't interest me too much. So this is the ones that I have. This is the ones we're going to be talking about. Mainly we're going to talk about the drop point and we're going to touch on the sheep's foot as well. This is a very compact EDC fixed blade, super easy to carry. I do wish it would have came with a fold over taco style sheath so it wouldn't be so wide in the pocket. However, I can always get something made if I really wanted to. But your total length on this is coming in at 6.02 inches. It has a 2.57 inch, like I said just now, drop point blade, just like the standard drop bear. This one has a gray PVD stone wash finish. Nice little top swedge just for some flair. It stops shy of that tip. You have a long row of effective jimping here and then another one right there by the tip. I love that. So if you're going to do like a drag cut or something like that, or if you're coming around something, you have something to hold on to. And then in this grip, that jimping is excellent. There's a couple of things on the drop bear fixed blade that I don't really understand why they went this route. And even though there are some things I don't really agree with, like the sheath, I still love this one enough that I own two of them. First thing I'd have loved to see at least the drop bear fixed blade be at least as big as the folder. As you can see, it's a good bit different. Not really sure why they went that route. Because, I mean, I think this is a perfect size for an EDC fixed blade. You got way more, you can see how much more handle room. Now, if you go to that forward choil area, you have about the same. But, I mean, look at the thickness difference. So that was the first thing that I was kind of bummed to see, but it's not a deal breaker for me at least. So yeah, 0.117 inch blade stock thickness and a pretty high flat grind that comes down to around 22 thousandths behind the edge. So as long as it has a good sharp edge, it should perform really well. Let's see what it can do. This one came with the okay edge out of box. It's not terrible. It's still sharp enough to do pretty much all the testing. It's just not as sharp as it can be, because the other one that I bought after I had this one, that one came a lot sharper. I did some of the same tests and it performed way better. And then to top it off, after I finished all these tests, I sharpened mine up and did a little bit of all of it, and boy did it perform great. So if for some reason you get it and this is not performing like you think it should, put a good edge on it and you'll be surprised on how much better it will perform. You have just enough blade length right here to do this cut. I don't know if you can see or tell, I slid out of the cut a few times. So that's why I said if you're going to be doing a lot of cardboard cutting and stuff like that, the sheep's foot is probably the best bet. However, this one can do it, and it can do the cuts on a flat cutting surface rather easily too, so it just depends on what you're looking for. Now, the ergos are comfortable, and as you can see, you can make feather sticks fairly easily with this. But whenever I started increasing pressure, I was really bearing down to make sure this one didn't spin in the hand. So doing the harder cuts is just a little bit more challenging. And it's because of how thin the scales are. Just like if you were using a skeletonized knife or something, it's just not as easy. Now, nothing was really poking or prodding me or anything, just a very tight grip. Now, this is where I could tell it didn't have a whole bunch of bite to it, because I was having to exert a good bit of force into the rope. And like I said, as soon as I put my own edge on it, I think I dropped, I forget what I put the angle at. I think it was like from wherever it was at, I think I put a 19-degree bevel on mine. And it made short work of this after the fact. So yeah, it could definitely do better. It was really hard for me to use the pointer finger grip because of how much pressure I was having to put into it. I was having to do mainly like a sawed motion cut. Plus, whenever you have these thin scales like this, the pinch grip, it's a lot harder to stabilize the knife. So, you know, even with the sharp edge, it's still not the easiest. That's why I said I wish it was at least a 1/2 inch thick on the scales and it would have been fantastic if it had been the same size as the folder. But now that I got a sharp edge on it, it's a lot more enjoyable to use. And just like I said, the other one that I bought, I got that one from Amazon, and it was performing leaps and bounds better than this one. And you know, that's okay. You know, I've gotten knives that weren't the sharpest from pretty much every company you can imagine, and that's why it pays to know how to sharpen a knife. We didn't get too crazy with this. I don't even remember how many I cut, but I definitely didn't add any extra rope to it because it wasn't the most comfortable about this point of the testing. It was just, I was having to put a lot of force. I was kind of shocked, you know, still sharp enough to do the rest of the stuff. The drag cuts, you're going to have to put a little bit extra pressure unless it's super sharp. That one, you know, would have done a lot better if it would have came hair shaving sharp at least. But it's still got enough bite to get through all the other materials. And I'm just having to put exert a little bit more force into it, and that's fine. Just enough blade to do this denim, because denim wants to like spread. It wants to spread out wide, and it can make it hard with the smaller blades. But this one did well. The other one did a lot better. That's nice and sharp. I think it performed well. I mean, it's in 14C. 14C, it takes a screaming sharp edge. It holds it for a respectable amount of time, especially at its price point. I'm able to get 4 fingers on here, but if you have large, extra large hands, this one's gonna be a little small for you. I mean, I'm right there in that choil area, and I just get a 4-finger grip. At least it comes with the paracord lanyard. And somebody was asking me, which blade shape do I recommend? It just depends on what you do a lot of. If you want the most versatile, I would say go with the drop point. If you do a lot of detail cutting, breaking down cardboard boxes and stuff, think of the sheep's foot. You can be able to maneuver that tip a lot easier on the sheep's foot. And then you got almost a straight edge, so when you're doing in-hand cuts, cutting through cardboard stuff, you're not going to slide out as easy as you would with the belly. This and the clip point are going to be better at cutting on a flat cutting surface. So it just depends, you know, like I said, if you want something that's the most versatile, go with the drop point, and then I would go with the sheep's foot next, obviously. Your clip point should be a better piercer, but it's definitely not going to be as good of a slicer as this one, the sheep's foot, because it's a very low saber grind on that one. Now let's touch on the ergos real quick. So like I said, I get a nice 4-finger grip on it, and it's comfortable. You know, the scales are softened on the sides. The burlap has got enough traction there. It's nice and grippy, and doing, you know, just average EDC task, it's going to be perfectly fine for it. But if you plan on doing a good bit of cutting, well, first of all, this is probably not the knife I'd be grabbing anyway, if I could choose. But prolonged cutting like this is going to fatigue you rather quickly because this is very thin. The scale thickness is coming in at 0.34. So that's pretty darn thin. Not sure why they went that route, especially if you look, like I said, look at the thickness of the actual drop bear. This is about the thickness, I don't know if you can see this or not. It's about the thickness almost of where those liners are inside the drop bear. You know, same size as the drop bear, make these a little bit thicker. Man, this would have been just an absolute perfect EDC fixed blade. But as it sits, it's a good light duty fixed blade. I do wish they would have made this a little thinner because it's a light duty. You're not going to be heavy use. I mean, you could try to heavy use it, but it's just not, you don't have enough here to heavy use, in my opinion. But what do I know? This one is great in this pinch grip. That's why I'm so glad they put that jimping there to do those drag cuts using that tip. You know, everything like that is going to work great for in this pinch grip. If you were going to, you know, just get into something, get into a package, you want to gauge how far you go into that package, you can get as close as you need to. If that's all you want to go, it'll bottom out right there, my fingertip. If you want to get into a package, you don't want to go too far in it. It performed well. You know, was it the sliciest knife I've ever tested? No. But that's okay. Not every one of them has to be. And I thought it performed good enough to where I enjoyed using it. I enjoyed testing it. If for any reason you had to take off these scales, they are bolt-on construction, Torx T8 fasteners. Love that. Everything's perfectly mated. You don't have any high spots anywhere. As far as the grip on the sheep's foot, is just as comfortable. You know, you got the same amount of grip area, and this one has some nice grippy peel ply. It's grippy enough without being overly aggressive, and it's a pretty good little slicer. Now, another thing I'm guessing is just the grind height. You can see this one's a lot lower, this one's a lot higher. So this one is going to be thicker behind the edge than this one. So if you're looking for which one's the sliciest, this is going to be the sliciest of the bunch, even with the clip point. The clip point is a lower grind than this. The sheep's foot comes down to around 27 thousandths behind the edge. So not super thin. I mean, you can kind of look right there and see the thickness there. But it came sharp and it still sliced very well. That tip is acute enough to be able to do some fine detailed stuff rather easily. The weight on these two, the drop point version, the way it comes with the small Tech-Lock style belt clip attachment, comes in at 4.45 ounces. So very manageable, especially for a fixed blade. Your sheep's foot is just a little bit heavier at 4.86 ounces. Not crazy or anything. And I don't really know what the clip point version is, but I would imagine it might be a little bit heavier than this one. And of course, I knew I was going to have to put an Ulti-Clip on here. That's just the way I carry it. You know, in the pocket, this is what you have sticking out. That's one thing that I wish the Kydex would have came up a little bit higher. It's not terrible or anything, and I can easily retrieve it that way, use it, and then I usually just push it up like this and then go about my day. And usually my shirt is a lot longer than it goes over that. This shirt hides it as well. So for me, it's the Ulti-Clip. If you want to carry it on your belt, you can use the clip that comes with it. You can carry it scout carry, vertical, canted, however you set up that clip for it, you can carry it that way. And if that's how you choose, yeah, it worked great. I think it's a great appendix carry because of how short it is. Scout carry, it would disappear as well. So sky's the limit when it comes to carrying it and concealing it. And I think one cool addition to this knife is the hidden feature it has on it. If you look right here in the back, if you haven't seen this before, you have a tweezer. And then on the opposite side, what's better to take one out and then get the other. They can be a little difficult to get out. And then it comes with the toothpick. One cool thing is if you lose one of these, they come with a spare set. That is something nice. When you go to put them back, I usually put the toothpick in first and then put the tweezer in, because the tweezer is a much tighter fit and it sits, whatever one you put in first is going to be underneath the other one, and it'll hold that one in just in case it starts to get loosened up on you. So do I have to have it? No, but it's a nice extra feature to the knife. Now for some quick size comparisons. It's smaller than the Kizer Buddy, and it's a hair. When I say a hair shorter than the Kizer Muskrat. As you can see, it's a good bit smaller than the Kizer Smolt and the Kizer Mini Harpoon. It's also a little smaller than the Kizer Deckhand and the Essie Azula. I think this is the only ones I could find that were smaller. We have the QSB Canary neck knife, and we have the Civivi Baby Banter fixed blade. And lastly, of course, this could be dwarfed by the Ontario Rat 1 and 2. Being that no knife's perfect, what are my nitpicks and complaints? We talked about most of them already. I wish they would have ground this a little thinner, because it's not a hard use fixed blade by any means. I mean, it's just too small. Speaking of that, I wish they would have made this scales at least average at 0.5, because this is very thin. Prolonged cuttings is going to start to fatigue you rather quickly. I think the biggest thing is I wish it would have been at least as big as the folder. Does anybody else feel that way? I just think this would have been a perfect size. I mean, obviously, I wasn't too worried about it. I bought another one. And the last thing is your sharpening choil. I sharpened this one up after I finished the testing, and you can see it's starting to create a smile back here because that plunge grind, I don't know if you can see that, comes down right there. I don't understand that, because you even have the forward choil. Why wouldn't you bring that plunge grind all the way back here? I don't know, it just doesn't make too much sense there. It's kind of like on the folder. It has the same issue as well. After I sharpen this one up, it's starting to flare in the back. So it's unfortunate, but at least this one's not super expensive. Your drop point version with the 14C and the micarta comes in at $60. Your sheep's foot has AEBL steel, very, very similar to 14C Nitro V, G10 scales, and this one's coming in at $55. The clip point version has a black clip point blade. Like I said, very low saber ground blade. It's also an AEBL steel, also $55. That one has black micarta. They also have an even more affordable version of this one. I think maybe this one as well in D2. If I find that before I finish editing this, I'll put it up here. So what are my final thoughts? If you're looking for a very compact EDC fixed blade, or maybe you're trying to dip your toe in the EDC fixed blade market, I think this would make a great choice. Get a little tweezer and toothpick on the end, nice little touch. I think it's a good looking fixed blade. Do I wish this was a fold over taco sheath? Absolutely. I just don't understand. I'll never really understand that. And of course, if nothing I talked about was a deal breaker for you, I can absolutely recommend this one. Like I said, I bought a second one of these. I'm actually carrying the other one right now, and it's an enjoyable one to carry. It doesn't weigh me down any. It's one that I can pull out somewhere and it shouldn't scare anybody. This is a very non-threatening knife. Same goes with the sheep's foot. If any of the variations interest you, I will try to leave every single one of them linked down below in the description. If you want to help support the channel, you can use my links. If you do, I can't thank you enough. That helps me pay for my testing materials. If not, no sweat at all. So that's going to wrap up today's video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave those down below and I'll do my best to get back with you. And remember, keep these blades sharp like my Kizer drop bear. Smile more.